Welcome to Astro Venture, the DSLR astrophotography channel.
Hey there, Astroventures, welcome back. If you're new to this astrophotography channel, my name is George, and this is the astrophotography channel for DSLR and mirrorless camera bodies, combined with the lenses we already own and a simple star tracker like the SkyGuide Pro or the Star Adventurer. Well, first off, I want to say for those that are in the U.S., happy Thanksgiving. Here we are with, hopefully you've got some time off, and the family's all laying around in a turkey coma, and maybe you can slip out this Friday and Saturday for the new moon weekend and capture some targets. So again, I hope everything went well for those celebrating Thanksgiving here in the U.S. But otherwise, it is new moon weekend. So let's get started and take a look at some targets that I'm suggesting for this November into December new moon weekend. So first off, I want to start off with the Pleiades cluster, M45. And the reason I want to start with this one is this target, outside of the bright stars, has a lot of nebulosity that extends well beyond the star cluster. Well, starting off in the evening to the east, if you have good skies to the east, you're able to jump onto this target very early in the night. And here's what I mean. For my own location near Salt Lake City, nighttime, total dark, starts for me at 6:38 in the evening. So you cannot beat 6:38. That's absolutely awesome. So, take advantage of it in the Northern Hemisphere and get on that one. If the target is not ideal for you early on in the night, you can always wait. This one is going to rise up and get overhead still pretty early in the evening. Now, M45, Pleiades, I'm going to suggest on this one that you go to a 300 millimeter focal length for that one. Whoops, wrong one here. Let me jump over to the correct one. So, 300 millimeters, that's based off of a crop sensor, and so it will frame up nicely. Of course, this could always be zoomed in a little bit tighter, but if you're looking to get those extra hours and get that nebulosity that's out and around, I wouldn't go any closer than 300. You might want to do 200 if you've got the time and the hours to be able to pick up more of that nebulosity that's outside of there. But this is a great target here. So M45 Pleiades, and this one will peak overhead around midnight. So with the fact that you've got a early coming of total darkness, and the fact it will run all through the night with about midnight hitting that overhead peak, man, this one offers some incredible time. In my opinion, this is the best month for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere to get this target and really rack up the hours. So let's jump back over to our stellarium and take a look at the next target that I'm going to suggest. And for this one, we're going to go to NGC 1499, and it's right next door, and you may know it as the California Nebula. This one here, it is an emission nebula. You do not have to have a Astro modified camera to pick this one up, because the emissions off of the California Nebula are strong enough. And another benefit for going for this target at this time of the year in the month of November into December is that it's also going to peak overhead near the midnight hour. And it starts off early in the evening at approximately, and again, depending on where you are, but for myself here in Utah, it's going to start off at 33 degrees and then peak around midnight. And again, I can get hours and hours on this one. And if you have Astro modified, you've got the ability to pick up even more and more with so many hours on this target of the nebulosity that extends beyond and some of the structure within. Those of you without an Astro mod, you as well have the hours to really collect enough on this target to get something spectacular, even though you're not astromodded, because of the fact that this particular target is a strong enough emission nebula. Now, jumping over to Telescopius here, NGC 1499, let's take a look. And on this particular target, sliding down here, and on this one, I'm going to suggest that you frame this one up at around 200 millimeters. And the reason, and sure, you could obviously go tighter if you would like, but the reason why I am suggesting that is because with the stacking, there's always going to be a bit of trimming that happens along the edge, and there's the nebulosity that extends out and off of it. And I would hate for you to find that you're in too close, and then you end up, cutting something off from this target. So NGC 1499, California Nebula. And again, it's another outstanding all-nighter target because it will peak near midnight. And so you've got, the hours before midnight and the hours after, as well as for most people, you can find a happy wedge of sky where, you can avoid the light pollution wherever you are. And, who knows, maybe you're in a great spot and you can shoot, the entire evening. So, jumping on to our next one here, M31 Andromeda. And let's take a quick look here, and we'll stay in Telescopius while we're here. On this particular target, I'm going to suggest, and remember, if you're not familiar, my suggestions on focal lengths are based off of a crop sensor camera. Those of us shooting, a full frame, you've got some additional wiggle room that is in there. But here you go, 300 millimeters on a crop sensor. You can pick that one up really well, frames up well. And then let's jump over to Telescopius, over to Stellarium. And let's back out here. Now, Andromeda Galaxy is kind of, getting a little high in the sky. But the reason why I wanted to mention this, because you see this is directly overhead, and it's going to start out at first dark really high. But the reason why I wanted to throw this one out here, great beginner target. And the other thing is that if you don't have a lot of hours to spend through the night, this target will start off at dark overhead in the best shooting position. So even if you can only pull off a few hours, so you look here, I'm sitting at 1912, so just a little after 7 o'clock in the evening. So there we are, there's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and you can see it's sitting there up in, this is 11, it starts to fall back down out of this prime area. So, you can, of course, continue on to shoot this target, but you can see where it's starting to get lower here. But, as a target, if you don't have a lot of time, you can hit this one early in the evening and get yourself back in bed before it gets too late in the night. But with the Andromeda Galaxy, you just don't need a lot of time, and this one starts out in an amazing location. So, consider it. Like I said, not exactly the best of time, in the year to get on this one, unless you're very limited in your shooting time. Then it is the perfect time. Now, while we're sitting here in galaxies, let's jump over to M33, the second largest galaxy for us to view, and you can see it's not too far off from Andromeda. And this one again shows up in great skies. We're starting off at 61 degrees here at 1912. So this particular target, let me back out again, just so you can see it. Here's the east, okay? And there's directly overhead. And with this target, you can see there's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. See, it's only getting better. 10 o'clock. Just crosses past our peak, 11 o'clock, moving down the other side. So again, this is going to be another target where if you're limited in your time, consider this one. It's a great one to jump onto. The thing that you do have to consider with this particular target, though, is that the Triangulum is not quite as cleanly put together as the Andromeda. This is an excellent representation. Somebody else's photo, Ken from California, it looks like. It's just not as clean and tightly put together. So for that reason, more hours are better, but hey, you work with what you got. And on this particular target, I'm suggesting jumping up to about 500 millimeters, and that will frame up nicely. If you've got a lens that goes out to 600, my particular lens doesn't like the 600 range. It starts to get soft beyond 500, but if your lens is nice and sharp out through 600, consider taking it there. But the Triangulum Galaxy is great because, again, if you don't have a lot of time, this is perfect, and it starts out in a premium position for the night. So let's continue on. Next target, I want to suggest and this one's been around for a while, is the Heart and Soul. So let's do a quick look on the Telescopia side before we jump over to Stellarium. Now, of the Heart and the Soul, the Heart is much bigger on this particular target. I've got a few suggestions on focal length. So on this one, too many zeros in that. There we go, 200 millimeters. This will frame you up nicely. You'll pick up some extended nebulosity, and that'll work well with the stacking. You could take this up a little bit longer, 300 millimeters, and then I would suggest playing with how you align this. There we go. This is probably how I would set it up, but like I said, you are going to cut off some of the nebulosity that's there. You could consider going to a 250 kind of happy medium and center that up. Then right next door, we have the Soul, which is IC 1848. We'll jump over there to our next door target. And with this one here, if you decide to go after this one, I'm going to suggest 300 millimeters. It works very well, and it allows you for that stacking, trimming, and everything that we generally need to do. But 300 millimeters works really well on the Soul. 200 millimeters works well on the Heart. Now, if you have, and I really need to get myself one, if you have one of the 135 millimeter Samyang lenses at f2 aperture, so this is what that would look like. This will allow you to pick up a lot of the nebulosity that's out and around, and it gives you plenty of cropping room for after the stack. So consider that. The other thing you could also look at doing is, if you frame this up with 200 millimeters, you could also pull this off and get both of these targets in here. So there's a number of different options that you can do to work with this this particular target. Now let's jump over to the Stellarium side for a moment. And here we go. So let's go IC 1805. Okay, and let's zoom ourselves in. Okay, so here we go. There's where your target is located. There is directly overhead. And then let me zoom this out a bit so you can see. So it's a target off in the north. So let me back up to 1900. So here we go. We're starting out northeast, right there. You can see we're sitting nice and high in the sky. And then from there, as the night, I'll zoom this in just a bit here. Okay, so we're starting nice and high in the sky, so a little above 50 degrees. There's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11, midnight. Oops, there we go, midnight. And then it starts to come down. So this target offers quite a few hours, both Heart and Soul, to be able to capture this one in some really good sky. So consider that Heart and Soul. There's a number of different focal lengths available for you. Everybody will be able to find something for that. Lastly, the last one that I'm going to suggest, and this one is turning into a complete nemesis for me, and that would be the Flaming Star Nebula. Now, 2 weeks ago, when I put my video out, I was talking about how I was going after that. I went through, my planning and everything. I did go out and shoot the. My intention is to have that video out last week. And for some reason, and I don't know why, when I go and stack this data, for some reason, and that video will be coming, I'm doing a lot of troubleshooting with that data, but for some reason, I am getting some odd blurring in my target, or excuse me, in my data when I put it all together. I do not see any of my data creeping, but I don't know, that one's coming, but anyway, maybe you'll have better luck than I do. But the Flaming Star Nebula, it's an emission nebula, and with some hours on it, even a non-astromotic camera, you should be able to pick this target up. And with this one, you can also do the 135 millimeter Samyang to with that f2 aperture to pull this in. So let's back this out just a little bit so you can see it here. Okay, so let me back this to 1900. Okay, and here you go. Now, here's your northeast, here's your east, so it's starting off nice and low. So once you can get on, you could wait a little bit until it gets higher. It is starting low at 20 degrees. So there's 8 o'clock, it jumps all the way up here to 30 degrees. So 9 o'clock, now we're up here to 40 degrees, and this is where we start coming into that good shooting area, and it's not very late into the night. So here we go, 10 o'clock, there's 11 o'clock, here comes midnight, it's coming into a perfect position, 1 a.m. sitting directly overhead, 2 a.m. having crossed midnight, 3 a.m., move this down a bit, and then 4 a.m., there we go, 5 a.m., and then for myself, coming around into the 6 a.m. hour, and we're back to, let's see here, it looks like, what is this, 30 degrees. So you would be able to pull an all-nighter on this one. So maybe you'll have better luck than I did, but man, the Flaming Star Nebula, I got data on it, but it just isn't stacking. But like I said, that's a video that's coming, and let's jump over here to Telescopius for a quick moment. And I see, 405. Here we go, and slide this down. Okay, you can see there's a lot there, and this is one of those targets where, as I said, that 135, for those of you that are fortunate enough to have one, that frames up nicely, really nicely. So there you have it. Those are going to be my suggestions. There'll be another video coming for later in the month of December, because we'll end up with another new moon coming up shortly. And so M45 Pleiades, that one's an all-nighter, peaks at midnight, NGC 1499, California Nebula. There's another one that you can pull an all-nighter on with a peaking near midnight. M31, Andromeda Galaxy, going to start off in the best part of the sky if you only got a few hours. M33 is entering in that best part of the sky. Again, great target if you have limited hours, but the more the better, because it's not a very structurally tight galaxy to shoot. And then Heart and Soul, there's a number of hours available on that one. It's starting off at 50 degrees, so it's right there in some prime shooting area with a number of different focal lengths that'll work for the Heart and Soul, plus as a combination. And then lastly, the Flaming Star Nebula, my current nemesis that I can't seem to get the data to process. So there you have it. Well, if you like what you see here at Astro Venture, consider liking, subscribing, ringing the bell, and sharing the videos out. And we would love to see you over at our Facebook group, Astro Venture DSLR. And until next time, I wish you clear skies and uneventful nights.